Live from New York, it's the show that's choreographing Usher's halftime performance. Not really choreographing, to be honest with you. I wasn't working on the dances per se, but I was going through his full catalog.
Trying to figure out the steps. Wildes lost so much money betting on the Patriots this year. He's going to have to win it back on betting on the first song for Usher.
I like the DJ song. What?
He wanted to let y'all know I'm about it.
Yeah,
I played this game too.
I broke my collarbone.
Way back in the day. That's what he was saying.
I broke my fibula. Who would a loss be more heartbreaking for, the 49ers or the Chiefs?
I'm really curious where Brew's going to land on this. I think it's unequivocal, and it's San Francisco. They've been banging on the door for years. More on that in a moment. They've been favored in every game they have played this season. They have baby Drew Brees at quarterback, I've been told. They are the favorites in this game, and the window at some point does close. Wildes, what am I?
A non-playable character in Red Dead Redemption. Like a bartender.
The way you asked that was crazy. What am I?
What am I? A sports historian is what I am.
He wasn't going to say that.
He never
was going to say that.
Well, okay. Well, I thought
Mr. Consistency,
when I
he couldn't have
said
said
no,
that.
that's what they call me.
Oh,
but I am a sports historian. It's literally what I am. Brew is as well. So here's the reason I mentioned it. That was a great pull though. NBC on Red Dead Redemption. Vikings of the 70s, Broncos of the 80s.
Yep.
Bills of the 90s, mix in teams with this many conference championship games and didn't even make a Super Bowl, the Rams of the 70s and the Eagles of the 2000s. Those are the teams that have had this type of postseason success without breaking through. And only one team ever has had this type of postseason success without breaking through and then broke through. And that was John Madden's Raiders. Every other one of those, you can say the Broncos did, but they didn't. They changed coaches, and it was 10 years later. That team never broke through. And so those teams are considered some of the most tragic in NFL history. The Purple People Eater Vikings, the Rams with those amazing defenses. We talk about Elway. We think about him differently now than how we thought about him throughout the first 15 years of his career. So if the Niners don't do it now, when they're the Super Bowl favorite, when they've been favored all year, when they are healthy, I know they don't have Hufanga, but they haven't had him for 2 months. Yeah, they're as healthy as any team can be. This is not the type of loss you get over. So I would say for the Niners, without question, it's them.
I totally agree. I thought you might say Chiefs, but look, the Chiefs, and I guess you thought they'd be here, but they didn't have a good regular season. For them, it wasn't even good. It certainly wasn't great. For their standards, it probably wasn't even good. And I think the greater your regular season, the greater the disappointment if you don't get to the Super Bowl and win it. Like who's probably the most disappointed team right now is the Ravens. Because they had such a great regular season. Even though Buffalo's disappointed Miami, it's the Ravens, right? Yes. So I think it's clearly the Niners.
And Detroit close because they were up so much in the NFC title game.
And they had a great regular season too. But yeah, and look, Kyle Shanahan, for him, I mean, he already has that tag of a guy that can't win the big game. All right. And it's happened not just in the Super Bowl when he was with Atlanta as the OC, up 28-3 on your Patriots, and then against the Chiefs when he's up 10, they give up, 21 points in the last 6 minutes to lose that game. It also happened when the Rams won the Super Bowl. They were up 10 heading into the fourth quarter, 17-7. So if he loses this game, even though oddly the Niners are favorite, it seems like most pundits are picking the Chiefs. Even though a lot of people think the Chiefs should win, you don't bet against Mahomes, this will be a huge disappointment and continue that image or reputation for Kyle Shanahan. And then and also, Nick, like they are a stacked team. Yes. And at some point, if Purdy eventually gets paid, like you're not going to be able to have a team that's stacked going forward.
That's what I think.
So if you don't get it done now, win.
Go ahead, Wildes. I'm sorry.
I didn't want to have to do this early in the show. I'm putting Kyle Shanahan on pumpkin alert.
Okay.
Pumpkin?
Pumpkin alert.
Okay, stop.
Pumpkin adjacent.
You don't think that'd be a steep drop?
I'm saying
he might not be the genius everybody's saying.
Oh, you think so? Well, I don't
you
know.
can't be a genius if you can't win the big one. He's really good.
I'm just saying he's
but Pumpkin's a little far.
Pumpkin alert, where it's like the clock strikes midnight, it's pumpkin time. He's on pumpkin alert that he should be worried, and here's why. You just laid out 3 big games where he was up 10 in the fourth quarter, and the game got away from him. The other horrible stat is when he's down 7 or more entering into the fourth quarter, he's 1-31.
He's right.
Because he's 1-7.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's 1-31, I believe. So if he's up, he's going to be nervous. If he's down, he's going to be nervous. So all of a sudden, it's very slim for him to be like totally locked in and him not being affected by past losses.
No,
and when you start to think about the past rather than the future or the present, guess what? Pumpkin time.
Okay, no, but that's that.
Pumpkin's too far, but you don't agree with like.
No matter what happens Sunday, Kyle Shanahan's one of the 4 best coaches in the NFL.
At some point, it's going to be
guys,
just like Andy Reid was always a great coach, but it was still like, can he win the big one?
I'm glad you said Andy Reid. Do you guys actually think Andy Reid
top 4?
Wait a moment.
Oh.
Andy Reid got dramatically better at coaching?
No, he just got Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly.
Okay,
exactly.
So when Kyle Shanahan gets a Patrick Mahomes, we'll have a different conversation.
Because the way people do coaching stuff is purely based on record, seasons, playoff appearances, Super Bowls, all of it. Because there's no real eye test with coaches, right? And so the only eye test there is, in my opinion, is do you think they're overachieving? And this is where I think this is so wildly unfair to Kyle Shanahan. He has gotten more out of, do we all agree at the very least, he got more out of the pre-Brock Purdy Niners than any coach could have? They're getting Jimmy Garoppolo, who now everyone has come over to my side of the argument after you were calling him a winner and you were putting up the graphics.
And all I said is he was a good quarterback.
Right, but now you don't think he's a good quarterback anymore.
He was good. Not now. His body betrayed him. But he was a good quarterback.
Okay,
because Nick, let's not rewrite history. How well was Kyle Shanahan doing with the Niners before Jimmy G got there?
Their time.
No, what do you mean? 1 year?
They were 1-10.
Brew, it was 1 year and they're turning the roster over.
And Jimmy G walks in and automatically they win 5 straight games.
About Jimmy Garoppolo. The point I am making is we are now punishing a guy for his own excellence. He is getting every one of these big games he has lost. He has been at a massive disadvantage quarterback-wise. Massive.
But what about
Matt Ryan, Brady?
They were 28-3.
Well, that's on the defense more than the offense.
Nick,
they scored how many points?
They scored 28.
They scored 31.
Here's where your argument, and we get it. He hasn't had a bunch of Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Fine. But if those quarterbacks are good enough to get you to the NFC title game or the Super Bowl and get you a lead with 10 minutes left.
No. Okay,
why can't they be good enough to finish it out?
So I am not arguing that he's a perfect coach, but there is a level of every one of these games, he has been at a massive disadvantage at the quarterback
That's
spot.
by his own decision making. That's his decision to make the roster and start Brock Purdy. If he wanted to go out and sign a expensive veteran, he could have. But then he'd probably lose some talent around him.
They literally did that with Jimmy Garoppolo.
I'm saying very expensive. Well, I guess he was
Jimmy Garoppolo was the highest. And so, I'm not saying he's perfect. But we are going to absolutely fet, like the King of England, coaches that have accomplished much less with better quarterbacks. And certainly coaches that have accomplished the same with better quarterbacks. But because Kyle Shanahan has helped get his team, along with John Lynch's roster building, to these big games where it has been Matt Ryan versus Tom Brady. Matt Ryan, and he wasn't the head coach, obviously. Jimmy Garoppolo versus Patrick Mahomes, Matt Stafford versus Jimmy Garoppolo, a zero-armed quarterback last year, so just throw that one out. And now Brock Purdy against Patrick Mahomes. What do you want from him?
Nick, we have seen teams with lesser quarterbacks win Super Bowls.
I understand,
but
we don't. Hold on.
Nick Foles beat Tom Brady.
Agreed. But this is coming from the premise of Wildes saying he's on pumpkin alert.
He's 1-31, and he's down a touchdown in going into the fourth quarter.
Because you need
before that he was
play to come back.
If they
not 1-31. Come on.
Hold on. Wait a second.
Well, Purdy overcame. He's got
Purdy overcame it. But the idea that he doesn't bear any this is what bothers me. And then we'll move on. I'm sorry to get so angry. I'm supposed to be the mayor of fair here.
Yeah.
Out here with these hot takes. This is what bothers me. When Brock Purdy wins the game, Kyle Shanahan, what a genius. What a genius. This guy's out here making magic out of nothing. But when Kyle Shanahan, we put up the stat that he was 0-30 in the fourth quarter, it's like, what do you want him to do? He only had Matt Ryan, the MVP, and he was the offensive coordinator.
He was the MVP because of Kyle.
Well, maybe.
We have saw Matt Ryan.
What?
Hold on. His whole career. The only time he looked like an MVP was with Kyle. And I am not acting like he's a perfect coach. But this is lunacy.
He was 0-30.
But Nick, you do have to admit, if your quarterbacks, as flawed as they may have been, can get you to the levels that Kyle has been at, then why can't you carry him out? And we see his play calling change too.
That's
late in games.
Which is why he is not a perfect coach. But this is, to me, a little bit of, I don't want to use Shaq because he was the best, but it is taking a peak Russell Westbrook, you know what I mean, and being like, well, they're losing because he can't hit mid-range jump shots, as opposed to being like, one of the reasons they're in these big games is because of him. No, he's not perfect. And by the way, none of the coaches are. Andy struggles with clock management to this day. He's fixed that a bit since Patrick got there. And Bill, the coach we all believe is the best coach ever, the whole league decided not to hire him. 32 teams decided this year they'd rather have someone else than Bill Belichick.
It's just levels. I agree. Pumpkins are way too low level, but genius is too high. If he wins this game,
if you want to say the golden boy shine wears off a bit,
that's what I'm saying.
But that's not what you're saying.
I'm saying he's on pumpkin alert.
You said pumpkin alert.
I said when the fourth quarter hits, if he's down, he should be worried. If he's up, he should be worried.
Well, I agree, because you should be terrified at every moment of a game you're playing against Mahomes. But that
was a good way to put it, Wiles. It's true.
Yeah. Trick or treat, pumpkin time.
He's not going to be able to rest till it's over.
That's what I'm saying.
They win. Yeah.
Last Chiefs loss, Christmas Day in Arrowhead. Mahomes pick 6 to Jack Jones, and Pacheco fumble 6. Brew has not made his prediction yet. Tune in Friday at 3 o'clock we're targeting. But Maxx Crosby remembered those turnovers, and he's ready to make his call. If the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, they're going to win. The 49ers have to make it as uncomfortable as they possibly can for Patrick from start to finish. That's the only chance. That's how you beat them. Brew, your reaction?
Well, look, he's right. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is very good. I don't care what the stats say. He's good in avoiding the sacks and avoiding pressure and all, and he can run and scramble and all that, extend plays, make a pass. But the best chance you have is to make him uncomfortable and get pressure. They have had 4 games this year. And I get now citing the regular season feels a tad off because they've been so much better in the playoffs. Yeah. But there were 4 games in the regular season where he got sacked 3 or more times. They went 1-3. All right. The one game he's got sacked 4 times was this game against the Raiders, and they lost, obviously. And it was his worst game, maybe of his career. You know, it was a terrible game for him. So I think that Nick Bosa is going to be huge. And if they could get anything out of Chase Young, that'd be great. But I think they've got to put pressure on Mahomes to at least have a shot to make him make a mistake or a bad play. And I know this whole postseason he hasn't had a turnover-worthy play.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be tough, but that's the best shot they have.
Yeah. It was always just the turnovers and only the turnovers. And when I was saying that in the regular season, you guys said it was cope. You guys said I was failing to see the obvious nature that no Super Bowl champion ever had done it without a great wide receiver 3. You guys tried to tell me all these reasons that the Chiefs were cooked. When the reality is, we can show you their record this year in the last 5 years. Okay, so this year they've lost once when they didn't lose the turnover battle, and that game, the one turnover was a pick 6. The week 1 against Detroit. Last 5 years, when Patrick takes care of the ball, they win more than 96% of the time. So let's just go. In my opinion, the Chiefs have one loss all year that was not due to their own mistakes. Green Bay. Green Bay just beat them. And now that was also the game where the DPI could have been called at the end, but they were down 8. Even if it was called, they might have lost that game. Detroit week 1, the pick 6 flipped the game, right? The next loss, Patrick Mahomes in Denver with the flu, 5 turnovers for the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's still a 4-point game late into the fourth quarter. The next loss, Buffalo, they throw a pick on the Philly. Travis Kelce fumbles inside the 10, and despite that, there's the MVS drop at the very end. Buffalo, there's a pick on the very first drive of the game. Rasheed fumbles in the red zone and still had it with the Tony game. And Vegas, we just talked about it, a fumble 6 and a pick 6 in 7 seconds. One time this year, a team has lined up and just been better. And it was Green Bay, which drastically changed Wildes' thoughts on the Packers.
But sometimes teams make, there are forced turnovers and unforced turnovers.
Correct.
But we could probably look at a lot of teams and say, hey, had they not thrown these 2 interceptions.
Agreed. But the reason it matters more, in my opinion, for the Chiefs in this game is, what has Patrick shown you the last 2 postseasons?
Not throwing it away.
He can just stop turning the ball over if he stops taking chances and still be effective. So Maxx Crosby, maybe future Chief, maybe not. I don't know. I know the Raiders have the Raiders got a lot of, they got things to do. They might need to trade up, might need extra draft picks, try to go get a real quarterback. I don't know. I'm just saying he's making a lot of sense.
Super Bowl winners all time. You win the turnover battle, you win 39 Super Bowls. If you tie the turnover battle, 11 Super Bowls, and if you lose the turnover battle, it's 7. So I think Patrick Mahomes may not have that.
I think one of those lost the turnover battle but won the game is Mahomes against the Niners. I think.
Josh?
We can check.
He had 2 interceptions.
He had 2 picks. Jimmy G had 1 with his eyes closed, and I don't think there were any others.
Josh and I are still working on our nonverbal communication. He just shook his head no, which either is I don't have that data right now, or you're wrong.
Okay.
Stand by, Josh.
Maybe I'm wrong. Go ahead.
No, they tied it.
Okay, they tied it.
Perfect. Great job, live TV. Coming up next, Super Bowl MVP odds. We're not actually coming up next topic. Mahomes at 1. Purdy is at 2. McCaffrey's at 3. Then Kelce. And then Debo. Brew, which 49er is most likely to win Super Bowl MVP?
You could say Purdy just because he's quarterback. I'm going to go McCaffrey.
Oh, my God.
What?
That's a fair one.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, bro.
Haven't I said all year McCaffrey's a better running back than Purdy is a quarterback?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Haven't I said that?
I can't.
number 1.
Now, Purdy can ball.
Top 5, yeah.
But here's my reason. I've been grinding. I've been here. I was here hours before y'all.
And later.
It was still dark when I was here.
Well, when I left, you were still here.
Yeah.
When I came in, you were
grinding.
still here.
Did the odd couple from here just so he could keep
7 to 10.
What I have seen, I knew this before, but still, a key for the Niners is going to be they're going to have to be able to run the ball against the Chiefs. All right, so McCaffrey, look, in the playoffs, McCaffrey's got 4 touchdowns. And so if they can't run the ball against the Chiefs, it's going to be hard to beat them. And so I think that's going to – and the Chiefs were middling against the run in the regular season. Buffalo obviously ran all over them in the playoffs. So the Niners got to get their run game going, and McCaffrey obviously
That is the right answer.
Excellent.
You're not allowed to have that opinion.
Why not?
He's out here grinding.
Because
I can't say Brock Purdy can ball, but Christian McCaffrey might be the MVP.
Wildes, who's the last running back to win Super Bowl MVP?
Stand by.
Terrell Davis in 1996.
Who was the last receiver before Cooper Kupp?
So the second to last receiver, Julian Edelman. I don't know.
Julian Edelman, Hall of Famer.
The
Julian
Niners Niners have one of the best run games in the league.
Since the last running back.
Purdy didn't even throw the ball as much as Lamar Jackson this season.
Since the last running back won a Super Bowl MVP, we have had quarterbacks win it. We have had 4 receivers, 5 defensive players. It might be 5-4 the other way around. This is why I get frustrated with the Purdy discourse, because even the most ardent supporters don't really believe in him. Because in order
saying his
for
running back, his all-pro running back might get the MVP is not believing in it.
Yes, yes. Saying that
saying Julian Edelman was going to be the MVP is saying that Brady. You don't believe in Brady.
If going into the game, you think it is more likely for the Niners' best path to win is Christian McCaffrey.
Well, I said MVP. Yeah, their best path is to run the football.
Okay. All right. Well, then
who's been their MVP in the playoffs?
Who was their MVP of the regular season?
It's arguable.
Okay.
Well, who was MVP in the playoffs?
Who's the MVP in the playoffs? We had this argument, and you've been pimping Purdy.
I said Purdy. First, I ain't pimping him.
Okay,
but
sorry.
I said Purdy was their MVP. And then when he had the bad game against Baltimore, I stopped saying he was the MVP.
No, that was of the league. I'm talking about for the Niners. For the Niners.
Quarterback touches the ball every play. Kittle's not getting receptions.
Exactly. So say Purdy.
But no, they have to run the football.
Why can't they trust young Drew Brees?
They can trust him. Okay. Oh, they gotta trust him.
Okay.
Did they trust him against Detroit?
Yes.
Down in the second half?
Yeah.
Did they trust him against Green Bay?
So say Purdy.
Even in those, why? They got a good squad. I could have said Fred Warner.
Guess what my
Would
answer
that
is?
mean I don't believe in Purdy?
What's your answer?
My answer is Fred Warner.
You guys are such frauds.
No,
everything's not black and white. There's a nuance to things.
You're out here looking for narratives. He was here until midnight last night.
Thank you. I spent the night here. I didn't want to say that. I didn't want to brag.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.